Spinning wheel of death. No, we're live. Cheers, everyone. I've bought my wine. I was determined not to start this one the same as every other live stream. So that's it. I started by drinking wine, and I haven't had my dinner, you guys. So if I get horribly drunk in this conversation, I just think that's a freebie. Anyway, hello and welcome. We've got Whitney Alexandra in the house. Can I get a whoop whoop?
Hi.
Hey, Whitney. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm so good. It's so nice to see your little face.
I know. I've so missed having you in like the week by week kind of meetings. So this is such a nice treat.
To be fair, I was already in mourning when we were only 2 weeks into the mastermind. I was already mourning the end of it, wasn't I? I was like, no, I'll be back. Don't worry, I will be back.
Yeah.
I can see we have a Facebook user. They're saying hello. I'm just going to get it up on my other laptop as well, because we are live streaming. This is the live episode of TCA Live. We're here with Whitney Alexandra. We are asking the question, can you truly transform? And we are using StreamYard, which means if you leave us a comment, unless you're signed into StreamYard, we won't see your name. So hello to whoever just said hello. Feel free to leave your name. You can put comments and questions in the box below. I am just going to call it up over here on my other laptop. How fancy am I with multiple laptops in the house? But that way I can keep up on any... Oh, it's Claire. Hi, Claire. Hey. That way I can keep up with any questions over on Facebook as well. Yes, Claire D. So Claire, just so you know, Whitney, Claire came on the first ever retreat that I ran in 2019. So before all of this COVID nonsense. And
I love it.
I needed a photographer, and I posted in a business Facebook group that I was in. And I was like, can anyone come and take some pictures? And would you like to come to my retreat for free? And Claire was like, yeah, I'm in there like somewhere. And she was just like the most perfect soul sister. We sang songs from Dirty Dancing together. We sat in a hot tub and we drank alcohol together. Friend for life. So I'm so excited that you're here, Claire.
That sounds amazing.
Yes, so amazing. That's what it should all be about, right? That is what it's about, living a life of alignment. You just call in the best people that are just your people.
Well, and I was going to say, like, that's the Lily gift, right? Like, that's your zone of genius, is like finding all of these awesome manifesting new relationships and all of that stuff. So no surprises.
That gave me goosebumps, Whitney. Thank you. But when I had my spiritual awakening in 2018, I got told what I was here for, and very clearly, like, it was all the stuff I'd been struggling with just suddenly got really clear. And then after that, it was very, very clear to me that I wasn't on my own. Like, don't go thinking you're anything special. You're one of a team. There's a whole tribe of you. You need to go out and find these people. So I feel like everyone that comes onto this podcast is one of those people. It's absolute tethered at the soul, always meant to be. It's an equal exchange of energy. I just absolutely love it. So yes, Claire said it was such an amazing weekend. It really was. I still miss it, and I cannot wait. We were supposed to do it again in 2020, and of course in 2021. It's just on pause for now, but oh my God, yeah, we'll be back. Don't you worry. So we are talking this evening all about transformation, and Whitney was my beautiful guest on the podcast. I'm so excited, Whitney, to have you on this, because this live element is still quite new, and you're too beautiful for audio. People need to see your face, so I'm excited that we get that opportunity.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I think what an awesome idea to continue the conversation and give listeners the opportunity to ask their own questions.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So with that said, anybody who's watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on the replay, this is a new thing. I salute the people on the replay. I have no idea why, but it's a thing. Then you can put your comments below. So even if you're not here live, do a hashtag replay. Both Whitney and I are here in the Facebook group. So this is the first time that we've done this live in our very own Facebook group. Nobody else can get this unless they find us on YouTube. But other than that, in the land of Facebook, this is where it's at. You have to be here to get in on this. So whether you're here live or whether
Yeah.
you're here on a replay, put your comments below, even if it's comments, questions, anything at all. And Whitney and I will both see them, and we'll of course come back and answer any questions that are raised. So we were talking all about transformation on the episode that aired on Monday this week. And tonight we are asking the question, can you truly transform? So the people that are here live with us right now, I want to know what you guys think. I'm saying, guys, it's actually Claire and me. I was like, we've got two people, but then I realized I'm one of the people. Well, I'll say what I think. I can type it in the comments over here. But we want to know what you think. Can you truly transform? By that, I mean, is it possible to take yourself from a situation that you might be feeling stuck in, whether that's a business situation, a relationship, something to do with work, a friendship, anything like that? Is it possible to truly transform? And we've got the success coach herself, Whitney Alexandra, here to help us answer this question. So let's kick off with you, Whitney. I mean, I know the answer. I know what your answer will be, but I would love you.
You know exactly. You know exactly my answer. My answer is like a big yes.
Yeah.
And I think where people get hung up is you spend so much time thinking that transformation can be hard when there are so many ways to like make it easy on yourself. So transformation could be like one small step that leads to 100 bigger things. So yeah, my answer is yes. I'm like committed.
It's a big fat yes. And do you know what? It's a big fat yes for me as well. And I totally get what you just said. And I feel like I've experienced both sides of the coin. I've experienced epic transformation in some ways. Like when I think back to 2013, the job that I was in, where I was at mentally, in my mind, like in terms of even my own self-worth, it was such a far cry from where I'm at now. But here's the thing the point that I wanted to make. I'm still me. Like the epic transformation didn't take me out of the equation. And I think that's what I thought would happen actually, because when you don't think very highly of yourself, that's what you want to happen as well. Like you want to think, oh, I don't have to be me, or I don't, being me isn't valuable. So I wish I could be like that person. And, quite often we hook on to other people that we see, whether it's fellow entrepreneurs, people on movies, on the telly or whatever. And so the thing that can trip you up, therefore, is you can experience huge transformation, but if in your mindset you're still thinking that it's over there, you can kid yourself and believe that you didn't transform. You can feel like you're stuck, and you can feel like nothing changed at all. Have you got anything you want to say
exactly.
about that?
Yeah, well, I think you touched on something really important in that, it can be a bit of that evolution. It does not need to be, okay, I'm no longer this person and now I'm this person instead. Sometimes it does look like that, right? Like you watch brands transform. One day they have one logo and the next day they have another, right? Or, maybe you're rebranding your personal business, from one being an expert in one area to an expert in another. So there are those instances where you see someone make like a big leap forward. But I think, what I heard and what I really love about what you shared is it is more of an evolution, and it's about being authentic in, your vision for what's next, right? What that transformation is, and really holding that as something that, you control and that you have this opportunity to shape however you like. So I love that.
Exactly that. And actually there's a load of directions that we could go in at this point, but I just want to pick up, is this Claire that we're still talking with here? Yes, it is Claire. Claire has said it feels so scary though, doesn't it? So can you speak to that for a minute? Like, because I think that's what keeps us stuck for so long. And just to share a really quick story, there was something that, when I don't even know when this was, like a few years back, I'd say it was a couple of years on from my anxiety diagnosis. So I definitely shifted out of the day-to-day struggle with anxiety, but I was feeling very dissatisfied with my life, with my experiences, with my house, my car, everything. And I would just, you know, I would just have rants to my husband and just be like, I actually hate our life. I just hate it. I can't, don't think this is my life. And I'd be so frustrated by it. And what I learned through that process was journaling, right? And I learned how to pause in the moment, take note of what I was telling myself, and actually question some of the things that I was thinking, because a lot of the time it wasn't actually what I thought at all, but they were passing thoughts that I was then jumping on. And what happened through the journaling process, though, was when I started to ask myself, what do I want? Like, never mind what I think I can have. What do I want? What do I feel in my heart is for me? I very quickly realized that I didn't know who I would be once I wasn't anxious anymore. I didn't know who that was. And so even though anxiety sucks massive balls, and it sucks absolute big donkey nuts, it's crap. However, it is familiar. And so you might really not want it. I love that I said massive donkey nuts on the live stream. We're only, what are we, 15 minutes in and we've said massive big donkey nuts. I feel like I need a button for when those things happen. But I think that's the fear, isn't it? So Claire's just said it feels so scary. It feels scary because you don't know who you'll be. Like if you've struggled for money for 10 years, like who are you when money comes easy? So yeah, what would you say about that, Whitney? What do you want to say to that?
Well, so I think you touched on a couple of things. Like all change is scary, full stop. Right? It is scary. It could be the most exciting change. You could have won the lottery and that would still feel scary. There would be a portion of that that still feels uncomfortable. And I think a big part of the change and the transformation that feels uncomfortable is so closely linked to identity, which is what you heard, which is what you shared a little bit about, is who would I be? You know, I'm this person and I have these feelings, or maybe it's you know, if you're a expecting mother shifting into motherhood, that's a huge transformation, right? It's both exciting and scary. And so when you think about those like identities that are closely linked back to, you know, where we're transforming, it's a lot. It's a lot. But one of the things I don't know where I remember reading this before, but I remember reading that change in the body manifests the same way, whether it's a good change or a bad change. That feeling of like, oof, uncomfortableness, when something big is happening. And so for you, I think it's for everyone really, it's thinking about, you know, when you get that feeling, it doesn't mean stop, you're going in the wrong direction, which is usually how, you know, us intuitive people are like, oh, this is my gut telling me. No, it's actually your mind telling you like, stay safe. We know this area. And it could be like painful as hell where you are and what you're dealing with. Like you think about people that have anxiety and depression and dealing with financial issues or relationship problems, but it is like, they know what it's like to operate in that place, right? And so any change is going to feel a little uncomfortable because they've gotten so used to, honestly, like feeling bad. And so I think a lot of it too is that openness and willingness to feel better, right? Like I think for me, I'm usually an optimistic person, but I get into those places where I think like, man, I'm in a shit mood. And it's like taking a beat to say like, would I like to stay here? And sometimes the answer is yes. Like sometimes I think to myself, yeah, I would like to be here. Pour me a big glass of wine. Let me go to bed. Let me watch some like rom-coms or something like that. And I will get myself out of it tomorrow. And so I think it's like having that healthy dialogue and sort of permission to feel how you want to feel. But it's also like giving, it's kind of like the self-coaching of like, if I think this is a good idea and I'm feeling this way, then how do I just push through it on the other side? Like for me, I talk a lot about what I call my barf line. I don't know if we've talked about this before, Lily, and it's kind of gross, but you know, it's that uncomfortable feeling. For me, big changes manifest in my body like I could puke. And normally I don't feel nauseous. So I know that I'm onto something really big that's going to like change things for me if I get that feeling. So now I know for me, my personal coaching is, okay, you've stepped up to the barf line, you've got to step over. And so I've learned to think about it as something more playful and sort of guiding me along the path to something like big and transformative, but it doesn't feel comfortable in the moment.
Completely. Yeah, I think as humans, we're just built to want comfort. We like what's familiar. Mm-hmm. I read a book once. I'm going to completely forget the name because I'm useless with stuff like this. But if I remember it, then I'll post in the group. But it was all about the fact that in order to really effect change, like effective change that lasts, it has to be micro steps. You almost have to go under the radar, because for that very reason, because the minute you try and do anything too huge, all your alarms just go off and you will talk yourself out of it, or you'll sabotage yourself in some way. And the thing with that sabotage is it doesn't always feel conscious. Sometimes it will show up like illness that you'll say, well, I can't make myself ill. No, you really can. Like you absolutely can, whether you're meant to or not. And so this book was all about taking these micro steps. And I think like the important thing to say is, first of all, what you just shared about asking yourself, is this what I want in the moment? And sometimes that is what you want. Like, it's so important to say that that's okay. If what you need is to sit in bed with a tub of ice cream watching Friends reruns, like that's what you give yourself, right? But you give it an expiry date. You say, I'm going to do this for a while. Like, I'm going to let myself do this tonight. Then tomorrow is a new day. It's a new opportunity. I'm going to put the ice cream away. It's probably melted by then anyway. I'm going to get out of bed and I'm going to try my best. And so that's a really important thing to say, because I think anybody that struggles with anxiety or overwhelm, and we all do on varying levels, so much of that struggle comes from perception that it's wrong to feel that way. Like, as I look back now over the years, so much of my own anxiety was not the anxiety at all. It was me telling myself, you should be further along. You shouldn't be feeling this. It's wrong to feel that way. Like, because you feel that way, it means blah, blah, blah. Like, and I'm a storyteller. I can tell myself stories for days and it will just keep me so stuck. And the barf line, I love. I think I have a barf line too. And do you know what I've noticed about myself? And it's another kick in the nuts. I've noticed so many times when I've been stuck in my struggle, like, oh, this is my struggle. This is, and I lump it around like a cross on my back. And I'm like, everybody, this is my struggle. And I'm so great because I have a struggle. Like, everybody, look at me. Look how human I'm being, almost like a badge of honor. And then an answer shows itself, or an opportunity for change shows up. And I'm like, nah, it's all right, thanks. No, I just stay here with my cross. Like, and I think that's why. I think it's because we don't know who we'd be. We don't actually want it. And like, that's why so many people are stuck, and they think they're stuck because it's out of their control. Everything is within your control. That's the most important thing. And if you are, this sounds like a horrible thing to say, but let's pull up our pants and just take it on the chin. If you're stuck, it's because you're choosing to stay stuck. I'm not saying mental health is a choice. I'm not saying that you can help that. You can't always help it, but you can empower yourself to realize that there is always a choice. Even if the choice is, should I eat the ice cream or drink the wine, right? It's not always a very different choice. It's just about finding the path of least resistance to help yourself feel better in the long run,
Yeah. And I think too, like sometimes our track records really get in our head. So if you think, gee, I tried, for example, I went through a huge wellness transformation, right? I'm 50 pounds lighter than I used to be. And so when I think about something like that, like how many times do you start and then fail, reaching this big goal, and sort of building up the courage or doing the work and knowing that you're going to have to put in some hard work to reach this big goal. Sometimes that mental track record can really get in your way. So I think there are, we talked a little bit about taking those small steps. And, one of the things I realized for myself, whether it was wellness journey or building business or relationships or whatever, it really is like all about those small shifts that you make. So it's choosing to find a new identity that is a little more closely linked to, who it is that you aspire to become or what it is that you aspire to build. So for example, I used to say like, I'm a supermodel. And it was not quite true at the time, but I had that feeling about myself. And I knew that if I had, a strong enough identity and a strong enough sort of mindset, then I would make supermodel choices. I would strut like a supermodel. Like I would have that sort of pride in my body at all the stages rather than like, I will be sexy later. Or I will, I'll be proud of my body later. And, which is not a healthy thing because part of it is like the journey, whatever the transformation you're going through. Like for me, I've done a ton of big business transformation. So brands that want to rebrand or change their culture, for example, and then working with female entrepreneurs on the flip side, where we're talking about life and business and mindset goals and things like that. So it really can happen on any sort of playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a comment here from Claire. She says, yes, massively. A friend and I have been working on tiny business goals and achieving them. Some of these things I've been putting off for 4 years, but now I'm getting them done as it's just baby steps. And that's the thing. And the same with me, Claire, like, some of these things. And then you start to say to yourself, well, like, I'm stupid because I didn't do this earlier. And that can be another reason to stop because you're like, oh, well, I was stupid not to do it. So let me just be stupid for another year and not do it again. I think the important point you've raised many, but I think one of them is it's that absolute duality. It's that on the one hand, craving something different, craving the change. It's the energy from where that comes from. And that, like, this is so closely linked to my own journey, I would say, that I'm in right now. Because even a couple of years ago, like I shared, I hated where I was at. I just hated everything. Like if you gave me one of those, the wheel of life exercise that life coaches like to use, where they're like, give it a mark out of 10 in the areas of your life. I'd be like, it's all shit. It's all shit. I hate my body. I hate my money. I hate my business. I hate my relationship. I hate everything. Everything shit, right? When everything feels shit, like that's overwhelming, right? And so it's a tiny step is all you'll be able to take. And like that's the thing. Like when you're overwhelmed like that, and you can see the life you want, you can hold it in your hand. When you close your eyes, you can see it, you can feel it, you can smell it. And then you open your eyes and it's not that. It feels so far away. But you just shared this. You said, on your wellness journey, you had to learn to love your body as it was. And that's not some woo-woo fluffy thing. It's an absolute mindset, because every minute you think your result is there, it stays there. And it's not because it's magic, and it's not because the universe hates you and is going, you're not thinking correctly, so you can't have what you want. The honest answer is you have everything you want. You just think you don't have it. And that's because I think we don't know what we actually want. We think we want representations of that, right? So we think we want the money. It's not the money. If it's the freedom that money brings, for me anyway, and I'm sure the same for a lot of people. And the truth is, you've got freedom in so many ways. So the universe is going, well, I gave you freedom. You've got freedom in your life. You've got freedom in your business. Like, what freedom? We're not specific enough. And that's the duality we're fighting all the time.
Well, and I think what I love most about what you just said is that it's being able to say, I'm not happy with something. And then the fast follow-up question of like, what would need to be true so that I would feel better about this, right? So for example, with those wheel of life exercises that we all hate, you're giving yourself a mark. Okay, it's 5 out of 10, but like, what I need to say is true to have it at an 8 or a 10. What would 10 even look like? Right. And like, there are some examples I know I've had in my own life where you think like, gee, I hate my clothes. And you're like, well, no wonder, because everything has a hole in it, or it doesn't fit right, or you've had it for 10 years, or whatever the scenario is. Or something as simple as like, none of my underwear match. That can be a thing, right? Like, imagine what a supermodel you feel like when your underwear match every day, right? Like, it could be small things like that that just help to like upgrade the mindset. Little hacks along the way.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to share something about that, because that's exactly me, right? I mean, look at this, right? This is like such a mum top. It's filthy for a start, because I put makeup on and then I put my hands all over it. And I literally have got to that point now where I have had my clothes probably closer to 20 years, not even 10. And it's like, oh, I would like some new clothes, like blah, blah, blah. It feels like such a big thing. And then even today, I got up yet again this morning and was like, oh, God, I just hate everything. Nothing fits. I mean, for a start, I'm bigger than I would like to be right now. So that also has an impact, doesn't it? But I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But do you know what? I started a meditation habit just this week. So I'm doing it every day. And I've set my alarm. So I get up in the morning and it's what I start my day with, no matter what. Like, it's non-negotiable. And it's making such a difference. And that is a tiny change that I've made. I've only been doing it, I think today was day 2, right? Brand new. But today, when I got up in my old habits, like, oh, my clothes, blah, 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 I was just like, so buy new clothes then. Like, it's not hard. You've made it so big.
It might not even be buy new clothes. It might just be like, get rid of the shit clothes that you don't need anymore. Like, it might be simplifying things from what you already have, or spending 30 minutes to put together a couple of new outfits, right? Like, it might not be go out and spend thousands of dollars. Like, that's where I think all transformation, we make too hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, let me throw like, way too hard.
And then it's overwhelming. And then, oh, look, we've given ourselves the perfect opportunity to not do it, because now we've made it so big. I'll tell you a little hack, right? Because I easily get overwhelmed when it comes to housework, because I am not a housewife. It's like, I feel like I need it on a t-shirt, not a housewife. Like, yes, I'm a mum. Yes, I'm a wife, not a housewife. Never going to be one. I'm not house proud. I mean, look at this behind me, right? I mean, I've done the thing of putting up a curtain so you can't see the shit show behind it. But like, that's just me. And so I go through my life like, not a housewife, not a housewife. And so I can't always, I just don't feel like led to sort out cupboards or do whatever it is that those kind of people do. But as a result of that, I get easily overwhelmed. And so a little hack that I've learned to do is I tell myself, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. You know, like, I'll walk into my kitchen. Our kitchen isn't huge, so it doesn't take much for it to get really untidy. And I'll walk in and just go, oh, I can't do it. It's going to take too long. It's not. It's going to take you 10 minutes. It's not that bad. And that is a little mantra I just say to it. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as you're telling yourself it is. I put my music on. I roll my sleeves up. I get stuck in. And I'm always, every time, I'm so surprised, like, oh my God, it only took 10 minutes. Like, and it's only ever 10 minutes. But it's that habit, isn't it? Claire says, I've always worn odd socks, but 2 weeks ago I ordered new dual socks. Claire, this is huge. I remember your odd socks on the retreat, because that's what professional photographers should wear. And I feel so great now when I wear matching socks. Such a silly little thing, but a tiny shift feels good. It's so true. And do you know what? Like, not only does it feel good, it's so easy to implement. Like, it's easily implemented. You just pick a small step and you take that step. I feel like I could talk for hours about this, but I really want, Whitney, I want you to share more about your transformation journey, because it's so inspiring. And you've alluded to it already. You said that you were 50 pounds heavier at one point. So can you talk us through where you were at at the point you stepped up to the bath line, like, what was that point where you were like, this has to change? And what process did you go through to get yourself over the bath line and onto victory?
I would say, like, on my wellness journey, I don't think I had a barf line on that one. I had like a strong desire to change, but I made it too hard on myself. I thought, okay, you got to be hardcore. You got to go to the gym every day. We only eat salads now. Like, it was like, I did like the classic, like, badge over. This old Whitney is out, new Whitney is coming in. And like, I failed a number of times taking that approach, right? And so, but what I did learn about myself through the process, because like, I broke my foot in this process. I don't know if you know this story, Lily, but I broke my foot through this process because I was going too hard. I wasn't eating enough. I started gaining weight because I wasn't eating enough. And broke my foot, and then I was like really screwed, right? Because I was now like, couldn't move, couldn't go to the gym, only wanted to eat, like a perfect storm at that moment. But I don't know that I had a barf line for my wellness journey. I think where I got to with that is like, I just need to make it a more consistent habit for myself. Like, how do I get to a place where it's just normal that I go to the gym, and it's normal that I eat well, and it's normal. Like, it essentially, like, I kind of just reprogrammed my day. So there were parts that I know were not helping me. Like, if you sort of look at the day, I knew that there were some parts that weren't helping me. So I was a night owl, I was up till like 12 or 1 or something like that. And then, so of course you're not going to get up early to go to the gym in the morning, right? Like, it all sort of connects. So I think for anyone who's looking to make like a large transformation, it's kind of doing like the start to finish of the day, trying to identify parts of the day could you be successful with that activity, and what parts are you already failing at before you even start. So like, for me, going to bed at 1 a.m., that was my fail. I was not going to go to the gym in the morning if that was the case. And if I did those things, I probably was going to eat well. It's kind of just like that vicious cycle. But I would say, like, if we want to talk barf line specific, I think those are like big investments, big changes in roles, changes in contracts, sort of like the unknown of something. So like walking away so in 2013, the company I was working for, we found out live on the news that we were being sold. We were being like chopped up into pieces and sold off. And so that to me was like a large sort of transformational moment in my career, in that I had spent a ton of time working for large organizations, and now is at this place where I'm like, who am I and what do I want to do next? And so going through that own sort of personal discovery, and, which is how I got onto the whole, I love being an entrepreneur and helping other entrepreneurs. So I think there have been so many different shifts, but what I've, learned about myself and learned through this process is that like anyone can transform. It's just, where do you want to go, and how hard would you like to make it on yourself? Right? Because it can be easy and it can happen quickly. And I think there is some bad wisdom out there to tell you that all change is hard and it's difficult and it takes a long time, and it doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah, I remember that was the first thing you said to me, because for those of you who don't know, if you've not heard the episode yet, I was in Whitney's mastermind at the end of last year. And that was the first thing you said to me. Like, I came in with my big lofty goals that I thought were so huge. And I was like, yeah, I'll do this in 6 months. And you were like, all right, but you could do it next week though. Like, you don't, like, why are you waiting? You don't have to wait. And I think so much of it though comes back to mindset and perception. because it's what you're telling yourself it's going to look and feel like. And it brings me back to what I said right at the start. You know, if you think that you're going to get away from who you are, there's a great saying, isn't there, that says something, it's something about wherever you go, there you are. It's much more beautiful than that, but it's basically that, right? It's basically saying, like, you are who you are. And you know, you're not made up of, you're not governed by the size that you are, or how much money you have in the bank, or even who your friends or partners are. That none of that has any bearing on who you are and who you came here to be. That is untouchable. And so I think for me, like, just to get really spiritual for a second, it's about falling in love with who you are as a soul, right? And it sounds so floofy and fluffy. And I think this is the thing, right, with self-love. It just sounds like everyone's just like, oh, I love myself. But it's not about, oh, I love myself. It's just about, you are who you are. You are at your most powerful when you let yourself be who you are, and when you stop making yourself wrong for choices you've made or whatever. And what you've just shared about, you know, your wellness journey, for instance, it was those small shifts again, those changes. It's not about, you know, throw everything out with the bathwater, because, and this is a parallel with singing actually, right? Because when people would come in to learn how to sing, they would just go, I can't sing, it's all shit. Like, I sound awful. I sound like a bag of strangled cats. Like, I've heard that. If I had £1 for every person that told me they sounded like a bag of strangled cats when they sang, I'd be a retired millionaire, billionaire even, right? And I would always say to them, well, there are going to be things that don't come naturally to you. And so maybe you're not getting a good sound, but it's just balance and it's just learning, and I can teach you that. But there's no way that your entire voice is bad. And it's the same thing here. There's no way that you're that flawed, because the universe is too perfect. It made you, whether you believe in God or a higher power or like whatever, you've been made in the image of perfection, perfect imperfection, right? And it's not about getting away from yourself. It's about honoring who you are, recognizing changes you want to make, and just letting it be small and simple. And like you said, you know, I love what you said actually about seeing the parts of the day, where can you win? So for me, as a great example right now, I win in the mornings. I can get up, I can eat well, I can even work out sometimes when I feel like it. That's most likely when I'm going to journal. That's most likely when I'm going to go out for a walk, or I was going to say a run. Let's not be stupid. It's going to be a walk at this point. But the morning is where I win. The afternoon is where I fall flat on my face, because usually I haven't eaten enough. So then I need a sugar hit. So that's when I'll hit the biscuits. And do you know what? Great. In an ideal world, the whole day would be perfect, but you grab onto what's working. You stop telling yourself that everything is shit. Wheel of life, chuck it out the window. It's not all shit. You just want better in some areas. There's nothing wrong with that. But it comes when you start to appreciate what you already have. Not because, and this is the thing, I think people think that doing that means that they get rewarded. It's not a reward scheme. You're not on a reward scheme with the universe. You don't get rewarded for good behavior. It's literally that powerful. It's a mindset shift. And if you're constantly telling yourself everything is shit, it wouldn't matter what you were given. You've got the mindset that everything is shit, so you're going to ignore anything that isn't shit, and you're just going to look at everything that is. And that's it.
I find like a lot of big transformations, they are less about becoming something else and more about stripping away all of these old stories, old beliefs, old expectations, things that you were told. Like, for example, on one of our mastermind calls earlier this week, we talked about this example of being loud and being told that we were too loud. And I shared my own experience being told, Whitney, too loud, turn it down, right? Like, turn the volume down. And so going through life, acknowledging that I am too loud, you know, don't stand out too much, keep the voice quiet, be more ladylike, all of those things. And now I feel like, let's blow the doors off and I can be as loud as I want. So I think it's sort of like coming back to this more like real expression of who you are, and not having allowed all of these other things to just push you down or strip those beautiful things away. So, you know, Lily, like you mentioned the example in singing, I hear from people all the time, like, I'm not a creative person. Everyone is creative. You're just going to find your own way. But at some point we were told we weren't creative, and that has it just embedded in here somewhere. It's like a belief that just isn't serving us.
Totally. Or you've told yourself, oh, well, creative is singing, dancing, or acting, and I don't do any of those things, so therefore I'm not creative. It's not. Again, it's perception, isn't it? It's what do you think is creative? Because I know plenty of creative people that don't do any of those things. They don't draw, they don't paint. They're creative in the way that they run their businesses. They're creative in the way, like I've got a friend who is the best mum in the world. I'm going to call her out because she's in this group, Zoe Rowe. Best mum in the world, right? And I know it's not a contest, but Zoe is so creative with her kids when it comes to activities to do at home. When I'm over here, like, I mean, my kids are lucky if they get fed, but Zoe will be so creative with activities that she gives her kids, and that's creativity, right? And so it is a perception shift. Claire's hopped off, but she said, thank you so much for this, ladies. I'm going to have to shoot off as dinner is ready. You've inspired me so much to move forward tomorrow. Why put things off? I'll make it through and feel so much better when they are achieved. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, awesome. Thank you. You're so welcome.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. We nailed it. And, you know, and on that point, like, back in 2017, and I've probably told this story approximately 5 bajillion times on this podcast, so apologies for being boring, but it's such a great story. I'm going to tell it again. So 2017, by this point, I'd been in the self-development field for a couple of years, which means not really working in it, but working on myself, right? And I'd really got into the habit of setting goals, of journaling, of visioning, and doing all of this stuff. And I was always fired up at the beginning of the year. And I always felt shit at the end of the year because it would get to like October, November. I would look around and go, not a millionaire yet. Right. So I failed then. Everything's gone to rat shit. I didn't do any of the things I said I was going to do. I'm shit. The world is shit. Everything's crap. You know, beat myself up. And it was 2017. It was the end of October. And I was exactly in that place. And the year before, and I think the year before that, I had given up at that point. I'd given up in the October, November time. And I'd said to myself, it's okay, we'll just do it next year. That's fine, because I'm such a can-do person. So it was like, it's okay that we didn't do it this year. That's fine. Next year, though, we're going hard. We're going in like January. Everyone better look out. I'm grabbing it by the balls. Like, everyone stand aside. I'm coming through. Well, this year, the 2017 year, I was like, I was sick of my own bullshit. And I was like, really, Lily? Really? Are we going to finish another year going, it's okay, January? I was like, I can't.
Next year.
I can't finish another year feeling like I failed. Like, it's just not possible. And I journaled and I journaled and I journaled. And as I was journaling, I just had this awakening, like this light bulb moment. And it was like, I feel like the shift isn't this big clanging bell. Like, there's going to be no angels coming down with scrolls and harps, and, you know, like, nobody's going to set off a streamer or anything. Like, it's probably already happening because it's micro shifts. I remember it clear as day. I remember the day I had that realization, like, oh shit, I think it's already happened. It's already happening. It's in progress. I'm telling myself it hasn't happened. I've started to build a tower over here and it's looking really good, and I'm about to run away from it. What? Because it's not finished? Like, what is that? And I shifted it all around and was like, okay, so if it's micro shifts, then what's the aligned action right now? Like, if it's a micro shift, it could happen in a second. Like, when I realized that shift has happened, it won't have been a big deal. It would have been one little thought, one little idea, one little perception shift. And it was that day that I made a rule for myself. And I said, I'm not going to ignore my nudges anymore. If I feel nudged to do something from within, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to question it, and I'm not going to say it's stupid, and I'm not going to say that I can't. Like, that was a rule. You can't say you can't. You have to do it. You have to find a way, because the nudges are real. They're guiding you to what you want, and you have to start having some faith, right? And almost immediately, I felt the nudge, do a podcast. I think I must have read somebody's post or something on Facebook, because whenever I'm overwhelmed, I'll scroll on social media. It's what we all do, right? So I think I must have seen somebody talk about a podcast. And I remember going, I reckon I could do a podcast. Like, what is that, talking? Like, yeah, love to talk. Let's do a podcast. I didn't know what a podcast was, though. So that was the first thought. But you don't know what a podcast is. Doesn't matter. I'm not allowed to say I don't know. I'm going to find out. Well, then you don't have a microphone, and you don't have a podcast account, and you don't have blah, 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 blah. Figured it out. Got in my car, drove for 45 minutes to my brother's house, and was like, that microphone I gave you for Christmas, can I have it back, please? Because I've got a podcast that I want to start. And I made it happen. It was so empowering to tell myself, you cannot let yourself off the hook. You have to find a way through. Because at the end of the day, if something really matters, you can. Like, if I had to feed my children, I would do anything it takes, right? I wouldn't be there going, oh, it's not really my path. Like, I don't really think I should. I'd be like, nah, bollocks. I've got to feed my kids. I'll do what it takes. So anyway, I mean, you guys are listening to this podcast now. It's 2021. For anyone listening in the future, it's 2021. We've now hit over, I think we're close to reaching 124,000 downloads. We're listened to in over 50 countries at this point. Countries I can't even pronounce and I have never even heard of. And the impact, right? I get messages from people saying that episode changed my life. That message shifted me. That message helped. And, you know, at the time that I launched the podcast, somebody in our town had taken his own life really sadly. He wasn't known well to me, but I knew who he was. And something about his death really touched me deeply, because I remember thinking, oh, if only you knew there was hope. Like, if only you knew that it wasn't hopeless, that you hadn't fucked up that badly. If only you knew there was always redemption, there was always another path, there's always another choice. You can always overcome it. I wish you'd known that. And I felt kind of responsible for a second, because I was like, if I'd got over my own bullshit and just put my message out, even if it looked ugly, even if the video was shit, even if I have shit on my top, right? I mean, I put eyeliner on, guys. What more do you want? You know, it doesn't matter. Your message matters that much that you just have to do it. And it really gave me a boot up the bum. And that was the first time I finished the year feeling like I accomplished something, because actually the podcast hit 10,000 downloads in its first week. I think it was nuts. It went berserk.
Wow.
It got on iTunes New and Noteworthy, which then catapulted it even more. And the funny thing was, and this is perception again, as I put out the first episode, it went wrong, right? I was meant to have a guest. They couldn't do it. So I ended up just blagging something, because I told myself, you're not allowed to talk yourself out of it. I made it happen. And I was telling myself at that point, this is bullshit. Nobody's listening. Like, you didn't even plan that episode. It's crap. A year, maybe 2 years later, somebody booked in for a free call with me for an intuitive reading. And when she got on the line, she was like, your podcast changed my life. And it turned out that her husband had signposted her to that first ever episode back in 2017, when she was in the pit of depression and the pit of anxiety. And my episode was 10 ways I deal with my anxiety. And she took the advice and she felt better. And 2 years down the line, she was like, you changed my life. And I was like, wow, I was changing somebody's life. And I was telling myself that I was full of shit. Like, if that doesn't prove that you just never know, I don't know what does. Like, it's micro shifts, people. That's the theme of this conversation, right?
It's true. Like, you just don't know the ripple effect, right, of saying that one thing to the right person, or writing a social post, right? It could be so small, and it's things that you're just, putting out freely into the world. And I don't know. That's where I love like trusting intuition and trusting the synchronicity of the world. It's like people come into our lives at the right time and we share the time together, and then, we see where our paths lead. It's pretty beautiful stuff.
So beautiful. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
just to do a nod to this, because like I said, Whitney does have this amazing mastermind, and the reason I love it is because it's about collaboration and celebration. Like, it leads with celebration, and the energy of it is just insane. And I think that's the future. It's not even the future, it's where we're at now.
Yeah.
We've come out of the paradigm of there's one person with all the answers and we've all got to listen and hope and pray that one day we might be enlightened. Now, that's bullshit. You're already worthy. You're already enlightened. You are a powerful fucking being. You've got to start believing that and showing up like that, right? And guess what? You're a hot mess as well. Not you, Whitney, but all of us, right? We're all a hot mess.
All of us. I'll include myself.
We've got to stop telling ourselves that a great example of this, right? I noticed as we started talking that I'd put makeup on my top, right? And whatever else is on this, I don't even know what it is, right? It would be so easy for me, and I know people do this, to go at the end of this, I won't publish that because my top was dirty. Like, but look at the conversation we just had. Who cares? Who cares if I'm even wearing a top, right? It doesn't matter. Maybe we'd have got more views if I hadn't worn a top. Like, whatever.
I was thinking, that's a different podcast, Lily.
It's a totally different show. Maybe we'll do it. It has been known. I was quite famous back in the day for I would always sing in the recording studio and I'd get really hot. And there was one famous moment where we were in there with a group of us doing backing vocals, and I just got hot, so I whipped my top off. I mean, I had a bra on. I don't know why everyone got so excited. Like, it's just like being on the beach. But nobody was prepared for it. And I had great boobs back then as well. I had no kids, so they were very nice boobs. I was giving the people what they wanted. I think, that's what we always have to do.
I love it. You were just being you, right? Totally. And that's a beautiful thing.
Exactly that. That's been the biggest shift for me. And that's really what I wanted to share for everyone watching. Like, can you truly transform? You can, but it's not what you think it is. You don't get to be another person, because who you are, it was predestined. There's a reason why you're the way you are. And every single thing I ever hated myself for or beat myself up about is now exactly why people love what I do, right? People love the chaos. They love that I come on a podcast with a filthy top. Like, they love that my kids come running in and out. I mean, it actually hasn't happened tonight, but I could have had one on the boob, one running in trying to steal my phone. Like, they love the chaos. For people who don't like the chaos, I'm not the one for them. And that's fine. There's going to be a bajillion other people that have it all figured out, that have probably written notes to follow and have prompts. Like, that's not what this show is. And, every minute that I spent telling myself I wasn't good enough and trying to dial down those very bits that make me who I am was like turning off of the light, right? Imagine yourself like a lighthouse. You're a lighthouse in the world, and people are in their little boats or ships. They are trying to find their way. We're tethered at the soul. I said it at the start. We are tethered at the soul to the people that need us and to the people we need. And Whitney is the embodiment of this, because Whitney showed up like a guardian angel sent from the heavens, from nowhere, and was like, hey, I have a mastermind. Do you want to do it? And I stepped up to the bath line, and I went over the bath line, and I went into it. And it's just a beautiful connection now that I feel so blessed to have had. And that's what lies on the other side of telling yourself that you're not good enough or that you have to change.
Absolutely.
Like, I think a great point to finish on would be really check in with, why do you want the transformation? What are you trying to transform? Because there's only ever evolution from who you already are. It just gets better and better and better. What do you want to say about that, Whitney? I'll give you the final word.
I love that. I think that's so powerful. It's like uncovering that new version of you, right? Just an authentic, beautiful, unhinged version.
Totally. And the minute that you start to recognize that in yourself, you just pull people in that see that in you as well. And that's like Whitney,
Mm-hmm.
right from the word go, you saw that in me. Like, you know, I think my giggle is annoying. The first thing you said was, "Oh my God, you're a wonderful giggle. I love it." Because I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
know?
remember that voice note. It's like we spend so much time filtering ourselves for everyone else. And like you said, like the things, those are the things that make you beautiful, make you stand out. So it's really about amplifying those wonderful, wonderful qualities.
100%. Well, I just feel like this was an off the chain conversation, if I say so myself. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your energy.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Your
Thank you for
wisdom.
having me.
Yeah, no, you're so welcome. Thank you so much. And thank you for those people. And I can see we've got people watching. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us live. And thank you as well for watching on the replay to those people who are doing so. As I said at the start, you can put your comments, your questions below. If you've got any comments or questions about anything we talked about, even if it's just an opinion, we want to hear it. We want to know what you think. And especially if you have a question, like especially if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're craving a transformation and you need the help to do that, comment below. That's why we're here. And, you know, and like I said, it's collaboration. It isn't just Whitney and I, it's everyone in the group. Here we go. Yay. Oh, look. Oh, it's a sleepy Bubs. Oh, bless her. Look, see, imperfection. Perfect. Now I'm going to get my boob out. Now it's a party. Now it's a party. We've got boobs and wine. What more could you want?
Oh, I love it.
Here we go, Bobby. Oh, thank you so much to everyone. Like I said, put your comments below. Whitney, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, like Lily said, leave us your comments. We'd love to help and help make it easy for you.
So welcome. And of course, this is going out on the podcast as well. I will put into the show notes the links. But if you get your ass into the Confidence Academy podcast Facebook group, you can talk to the real Whitney. She's in there. She's a real person.
Yeah.
So tag her in your posts, your comments. Whitney, just give them your website as well in case anybody wants to find out about working with you. If anyone wants to join the mastermind, how is the best way to do that?
Yep, so you can either track me down in the podcast, Whitney Alexandra, or you can go to whitneyalexandra.ca and you'll find me there.
Fabulous stuff. And we will put those links as well. Thank you so much. I'm going to say good night to everybody. Thanks for being here. I'll be back again next week with another amazing guest. Look after yourselves and remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. Mwah. Good night.